Today we discuss Danny Rowling's brutal crime spree in Gainesville, Florida. We'll talk about his gruesome murders and the sadistic crime scenes Rowling left at each site. We'll also take a look at how Rowling finally ended up on the police's radar for his murders, the bizarre way he went about confessing, and the courtroom battle over whether or not he should be put to death. I'm Mike.
I'm Ian.
And I'm Dave. As far as part 2 of this story goes, stick around. It's no Empire Strikes Back, but it's not half bad. This is Necronomipod.
Danny Rowling said he killed 5 students to send a message to Gainesville. Today, the jury sent a message to Danny Rowling.
A majority of the jury, by a vote of 12-0, advise and recommend to the court that it impose the death penalty upon Danny Harold Rowling.
Unanimous death recommendations for each of Rowling's murders.
Danny Rowling, for whatever reason, and it's far beyond what I'll ever understand, decided to visit horror on this town and on these students in ways that it's unimaginable.
Rowling terrorized his victims: Sonia Larson, Christina Powell, Krista Hoyt, Manny Tabuada, and Tracy Paulus.
So is The Empire Strikes Back the best Star Wars movie of all time?
It is for me.
I have not seen all the Star Wars movies. I don't like Star Wars at all.
I've seen the original. I think we've discussed this. I've seen the original 3 and then the Jar Jar Binks one.
Jar Jar Binks not good.
What is the first one with him? With like Anakin, right? The little kid, Darth Vader.
Seen the first or second one? I forget those.
I think it was the first of like those. That second trilogy, right? It was like the initial trilogy.
Yeah.
And there was like that second trilogy, right?
Right, but was it the first movie or the second movie?
I think it was the first one.
Was it? I don't remember.
Was that the Phantom Menace?
So bad. Yeah. I'm no Star Wars expert. I just was trying to come up with a good second parter for the opening.
But I feel like most people like Empire Strikes Back, right? I mean, unless you want the feel good Return of the Jedi. Ooh.
Yeah, Empire's great.
Yeah. Okay.
Ian doesn't like them at all. He had to throw in the at all.
I tried really hard multiple times. I just can't get into it.
Oh, you know.
And I like shit like that, but
I don't blame you, man. Science fiction. It's not my thing either.
Well.
But at least those I have seen and they're okay. Star Trek, I have not seen a single thing.
I don't even know how that's possible.
It's very possible. It's very easy.
I've seen more Star Trek than I've seen Star Wars, and I just don't love Star Trek either.
Oh, boy.
I don't know what it is about both of them. Just
science fiction. That's the problem.
Nah,
it's just not good. Science fiction is not good.
It's the best, man.
No.
It's brutal.
What about Battlestar Galactica? Did you watch that? Isn't that like the other? Like
I watched
third
the
biggest?
Original series when I was a kid. I never watched the
was the new one?
redo a couple years ago.
I did not know it was a redo.
I loved it though. The original one.
The redo was you didn't see.
I didn't watch it.
You didn't do that either.
No.
I'm assuming. Okay. We probably have a lot of science fiction nerds really pissed at us right now.
I had like Battlestar Galactica models and stuff for the
Did you?
ships. Yeah, it was great.
Like the ones like you had to like paint yourself and like put together, or you just like
Probably the
toys?
easy snap ones.
Yeah, like the toys that you'd play with and
You put them together, but there's like snap lock stuff.
walking around your room going pew 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 pew.
Probably was. I love sci-fi. I don't know how you can't get into sci-fi.
It's not my.
You watch
thing.
Dune? Watch the new Dune?
I think we talked about this.
Did we?
What was that for? That was
so good.
What was it for though? Wasn't that?
it's a movie
Yeah, but
based on a book. Based on the book.
Oh, that's
Dune.
right. Because you were the one you correctly got right. It was multiple books.
Yeah.
You thought it was a standalone.
Yeah,
But there were a few other books. Yeah. I did not.
I started reading a book this week. Very delinquent in some of those old books.
I thought you were just saying I started reading a book this week. I was like, good for you, pal. Very proud of you, Dave. I hop on pop. Which did you start reading?
Dune, the original.
Oh, the original
yeah.
Dune. You had not read it previous to seeing the movie? Had you read it?
No. Have not seen it yet either.
It is really good.
I've been hearing good things about it. I've seen it on the interwebs.
Yeah, I think the last thing I watched was Squid Game.
That was fun.
I've heard interesting things about that as well.
It's good.
Is that a movie or a series? Like a
Series.
Is it?
Did you watch that Blood Red Sky movie I told you about?
No,
It is
not yet.
fucking awesome.
Which one? What's that one about?
Like a hijacked plane.
Yeah.
It's on Netflix. It is really good. I was surprised.
That sounds terrifying.
It's my pick of the week right there.
Dave's pick of the week. What is it called?
Blood Red Sky.
Blood Red Sky on Netflix.
Man, is it cool.
It's a movie, right? Not a series?
It's a movie.
All right. We'll go check that out. Speaking of moving on, we got part 2 of our old boy, Danny Rowling.
So where we left off on part 1, Danny had murdered Tom Grissom, Tom's adult daughter, and Tom's 8-year-old grandson. From there, he got into an argument with his father, where 30 plus years of abuse boiled over into Danny shooting his father twice, with one of those being right between the eyes. After robbing his friend, Danny traveled to Colorado, where he raped numerous women, then turned around and started heading south for Florida. We said in part 1, Danny was in and out of prison for robberies multiple times, but that was all that was on his record. The fact that he was looking in women's windows, that he was a rapist and a murderer wasn't known to the police. Like, he wasn't on the radar for any sexually motivated crimes. However, somehow his father survived being shot between the eyes, so now Danny was wanted for attempted murder.
He went to the Richard Ramirez School of Headshots, apparently.
I don't know how you survived that.
Yeah, dude, between the eyes.
That's right.
God damn. I mean, I know his dad was a piece of shit, so I don't want to praise him, but shit. Shot between the eyes. Survive.
Hard skull, apparently.
Yeah, it would have to ricochet or maybe not. I don't know.
I mean, it couldn't have gone all the way through, right? Like, I mean,
I don't think so.
Depending on how it exited, I guess. Because if I remember right, with Richard Ramirez, one of them like went in and then bounced and then came out the other side, but it like angled through.
It's a game of inches, I'm sure.
Yeah, just how it is.
It's got to be less than inches, though,
Yeah,
right? Like,
right.
we're talking millimeters here.
Well, I'm a dumb American. I don't know what metric is, so that sounds right. Is that smaller than inches?
I don't know. I just saw the word online and said I try to use it. I try to work it in today's show.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know any of that.
I mean, I've been told I'm the size of millimeters before. So.
It must be a compliment then.
Well, she was upset.
So towards the end of August 1990, Danny showed up in Gainesville, Florida, where he went to a Walmart and bought a tent, screwdriver, tape, and gloves.
Oh, he's going camping. That sounds good.
Then he headed into the woods near the University of Florida and started searching for his next victim. Danny wanted to start his next set of murders on August 23rd, 1990. So he climbed onto a balcony of an apartment and took off all of his clothes, so standing there naked, except for a fanny pack that had a K-bar knife in it and some tape.
Why did he want to start it on August 23rd? Like, what's the significance of that?
I think it's just that was gonna be,
that was
because this
he
kid
told himself, like, okay,
yeah, like, this is the night that I'm gonna do it. It was no significance. He was like, tonight's the night, and so he's doing this, standing there naked, and some drunk college kid walks by and sees him and was like, oh, hey, there's this fucking naked guy up there, and then Danny had to run away.
Got it.
The next night, on August 24th, Danny broke into the apartment of two 17-year-old freshmen, Sonia Larson and Christina Powell. Using a screwdriver to get the front door open, he walked in to find Christina Powell asleep on the couch. According to Danny, he stood there and watched Christina sleep for about 10 minutes. Then he went upstairs and watched Sonia sleep for about 5 minutes.
So are we saying he operated in the nude when he did these crimes?
This one he did not.
Okay.
Just that one that we know of.
Yeah, for some reason he did that.
Maybe he's like, this might not be the best idea logistically, so...
He wore all black for black everything, ski mask, all that.
Would you guys ever wear a fanny pack? I kind of want to get a part of that movement because there's people who are now bringing them back and wearing them.
Really?
I would do a fanny pack. I hate things in my pockets. Hate them.
Like when I go to a place where I have to carry stuff like that, I just have that black Adidas bag, like small backpack. Like Ian's bag he carries.
Yeah.
You're a little more prone to getting it stolen, though. I mean, you might not know what's going on behind you. Fanny pack.
I'm aware.
It's right there.
I'm aware what's going on.
You're always aware of everything around you. Fucking Mac from Always Sunny over here.
Sneaking up on me.
You passed the ocular test.
I spin around and do 180s at random. You never know.
Karate hands out. Like, ugh. I'm watching you guys behind me. I don't know. I would rock a fanny pack. I'm just saying.
Aren't they big in the wrestling community?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I thought so.
They're also selling merch too, so they got all that cash all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not against it. I just don't think it's for me.
So you would not wear Zubas and a fanny pack to our next concert we all go to together?
I don't know what a Zuba is.
This was fucking like the what's the print even called? Like those bright neon pants they used to wear back in, like, you'll see like the old wrestlers wearing them. Let me pull it up for you.
Okay.
Zubas, man, come on.
I mean, they don't sound great based on your initial explanation.
No, they're not. But with a fanny pack too, like that's Zubas, right?
No.
You wear that with a fanny pack,
No.
and like a tank top. You're a fucking pro wrestler, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, or at least mistaken
You want
for one.
to get some Zubas with me?
we can do that.
You like my outfit, brother?
You can literally get them in every NFL team color. Dave, you want to get some Cleveland Brown Zubas?
Well, that might be all right. As long as we don't wear Steelers pants.
Well, he can get Steelers. You get Browns. You wear them on Sundays around your house
I would be up for that.
with a fanny pack. You can keep beers in them. Okay. All right. Anyways, I would enjoy a fanny pack at some point in my life.
Well, and ours will get more use this season because we'll be wearing them in the playoffs, and Ian won't be wearing his in the playoffs. So
We're at 6 seconds.
We'll see.
So at the end of those 5 minutes of watching Sonia sleep, Danny stabbed the knife into Sonia's collarbone area, then immediately put tape over her mouth as she woke up. And remember, that knife, that K-bar knife, that's an 8-inch blade, like with that hook, and it's serrated, like the military knife. Sonia suffered numerous defensive wounds on her arms and hands trying to fight Danny off, but within a couple minutes, Sonia had passed out from blood loss, and Danny left her there to bleed to death. He then walked back downstairs and woke up Christina by taping her mouth shut. Danny wrestled with her and was able to tape her hands behind her back. Afterwards, he raped Christina multiple times over an extended period of time. And when he was done, he stabbed the knife into the middle of her back. Once Christina died, Danny turned her over, cut off her breasts, and then wrapped them in plastic. Danny cleaned up what sexual evidence he left behind. Like we talked about last week, he used vinegar. Then he posed the bodies for shock value, just to torment whoever was the first to find the scene. With Christina, Danny sat her upright in the living room with her legs spread. The main reason that she was sat upright was so whoever walked in would immediately see that her breasts had been cut off. With Sonia, Danny posed her at the end of her bed on her back with her knees bent so that her feet were touching the floor. Danny then took a nap in Christina's bed, and after he woke up, he took a shower before leaving.
it's very bold. You don't know who could be coming over, you know?
Oh, yeah, you're just hanging out sleeping.
Yeah, taking a nap. And again, just the randomness of this is what makes it so terrifying. This could happen to anybody.
And he never, with his murders, even dating back to last week, he never like panicked or kind of had the same composure with all of them, right? Like the way we talked about, he killed those people in the last one, cleaned up the crime scene in no hurry, took his time, left, now showering. It's really weird that like 0 to 100 with like at least the murders,
Yeah.
but always composed.
I think that's where people start comparing him to Dennis Rader, and we talked about that last week.
Yeah.
How Dennis Rader sat there and just thought about doing committing a murder like that for years and watching people, and then
Had it all planned out in his head in advance.
But I'm also wondering just like what his past mental health too and abuse played a part in that as well. Like if it was just like, oh, it's nothing, like it's people screaming. Okay. I screamed my whole life as well when I was getting beat and all those head injuries and whatever.
That's a good point.
Just interesting.
the head injuries for sure, because the biggest thing that and we'll talk about it when we get to the court stuff, is that one of the parts that he suffered an injury to controls impulse control. And we're going to see throughout the story, he has 0 impulse control, just robbing random people.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like no cooldown period. And that's what one of the psychiatrist said that he was lacking that impulse control part of his brain. The next night, on August 25th, Danny broke into the apartment of 18-year-old Krista Hoyt. And interestingly, Krista looked exactly like Danny's ex-wife, Omatha. Not sure if that's why he chose her or how long he had been watching her, but all of these victims he watched for at least a couple days. Using a screwdriver, Danny broke the lock on the sliding glass back door and went inside. Krista wasn't home, so Danny hid behind a bookshelf and waited. When she got home a couple hours later, Danny jumped out, wrestled her to the ground, and taped her arms behind her back. Danny raped Krista for about an hour straight and stabbed her with his knife randomly. When he was done, Danny rolled Christina over and stabbed her in the middle of the back, killing her. After she was dead, he rolled her back over, stabbed the knife into her stomach, and cut upwards. He cut off her nipples and laid them on her intestines that were exposed, and then cut off her breasts and wrapped them in a towel. As in the previous murders, Danny cleaned up before leaving, and when he got back to his campsite, he realized that he didn't have his wallet with him, so he rushed back to Krista's apartment. When he got there, Danny decided to decapitate her and then position her body for shock value. Danny positioned her in the middle of the bed in a sitting position with her legs spread, so her headless body, no breasts, and her intestines outside of her body laying on her thighs. Next, Danny picked up Krista's head and set it on a bookshelf next to the bed to make it look like she was looking at her own mutilated body. And then finally, Danny set up mirrors so the scene could be visible from multiple angles for the person that found the scene.
Ooh, sick fuck, man.
Is he getting off on the crime scene that they're going to find? Like, what? There's more effort going into that than like the actual murders themselves, it seems like.
So again, with the psychologist for the in the court stuff, there was two opinions. One was that he was doing it out of spite towards police because his dad was a cop and he hated his dad.
So he wanted to make it as awful for them as possible?
Yeah, for the police as possible. And then there was other opinions that because he was diagnosed as having a paraphilia as far as, getting off on this stuff.
I'm sure he was. But the cop thing seems pretty reasonable too.
Both make very much sense. Like, I mean, to get as specific as like cutting off nipples, like that's not going to add much to the cop scene as opposed to like a decapitated head sitting there and all these mirrors and, all that.
Well, I'm sure as soon as he left, he's going back to his campsite thinking, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. And then it's like, my wallet's gone. It gives me a round two. I get to go back.
Yeah.
So he went for it.
I don't know if we'll come across a more graphic crime scene than that.
That's, Ed Kemper maybe, but.
Was it Kemper or Gein with the nipple necklace thing?
Ed Gein had a nipple belt.
Yeah, this is fucked up.
In all fairness to Ed Gein, though, those weren't murder victims. Those were bodies he dug up.
True.
He didn't kill enough people to have a belt of nipples.
In all fairness to Ed Gein.
Yeah.
I thought it was a belt of vaginas.
He had. I remember he had 9 vaginas under his bed.
Was it a nipple lampshade? I don't remember.
He had lampshades made out of skin.
Yeah.
I remember that was our first show, and I was making jokes about fleshlights and stuff, and I'm like, this show's probably not going to last very long.
I think we all thought that.
Here we are.
Almost 3 years later.
Like, this is very distasteful. No one's going to listen to this.
So once both crime scenes were found, police knew immediately that the murders were linked. By now, Gainesville law enforcement was familiar enough with serial killing thanks to Ted Bundy when he broke in the Chi Omega sorority house and brutally killed college students and severely injuring 3 others back in 1978.
You ever hear that guy, Mike? Ted Bundy?
Never heard of her. Huh. What'd she do? Is she a cult leader?
You wrote the book, though, right?
I did. I was kidding. I'm being...
Well, and you did a lot of slaying at the sorority house, so I thought you might have been familiar.
Some called me Mr. Bundy. Al Bundy. But still.
I played high school football.
Always had my hands on my pants. Always had a beer in my hand. Really, nothing has changed.
That's what you aspired to, right? You watch Al Bundy in grade school. You're like, guys,
Yeah.
I want to be that guy.
I want to be a shoe salesman who comes home every day, is angry about his life, drinks beer, and puts his hand on his pants.
Police moved fast in creating a task force to find the killer, and panic spread around the University of Florida. Police held a press conference on Monday, August 27th, where they confirmed that the 3 murders were connected. They didn't give specifics of how bad the crime scenes were, but this news spread fast, and it went nationwide pretty quick.
I remember.
Gainesville operators were having a hard time keeping up with the phone lines from either parents calling to see if their kids were okay, or college students calling their parents to let them know that everything is fine. Students started sleeping in groups, like 10 to 12 people, started huddling in small apartments, and no one was walking home alone at night. And while everyone was panicking and trying to stay safe, Danny struck again on August 27th.
I'm sure all the parents just wanted to go down and pick up their kids and bring them home. Like, that's terrifying.
There was a lot of that, and there was I think it was the college radio station was reading out like a pre-written thing from, I don't know if it was the mayor or somebody, but just like reading this thing over and over again to like evacuate, go home if you can.
Wow.
Yikes.
That was fairly, the end of August. So like school had just started. They probably just
Or getting ready to start, depending on what their schedule is. Yeah.
Tracy Paulez and Manuel Taboda had been good friends since grade school. And when they went to the University of Florida, they decided to get an apartment together, and it was on the ground floor. Manuel was a big guy. He was 6'3", played football. He was over 200 pounds.
He's a little smaller than me then. Just a tad smaller than I am.
Yeah.
Tracy felt safe, and her parents felt that she was safe with Manuel there. Plus, Danny hadn't attacked while a male was present. Just like with his other victims, it's not clear how long Danny had been watching Tracy, but long enough that he knew Manuel lived with her, and this would be an issue, and had to take care of him immediately. Once all the lights were off in the apartment, Danny broke the latch on the sliding glass door, just like he did in his previous murders, and entered the apartment. Danny silently snuck into Manuel's room, where Manuel was sleeping on his back, then stabbed the K-bar knife into Manuel's chest so hard that it went all the way through, breaking his sternum. This didn't kill Manuel immediately, and he fought back. Danny started stabbing and swinging the knife at Manuel, resulting in a ton of defensive wounds. But Manuel was able to tackle Danny and kind of get him in a bear hug. But the chest wound mixed with all that energy of wrestling with Danny caused too much blood loss, and Manuel collapsed. And at that point, Danny stabbed him in that open wound on his chest and pulled up, killing him. In all, it took 31 stab wounds to kill Manuel.
This is a fucking beast, dude. To be able to get stabbed like that, break your sternum, you're still going to get up and fight back, tackle him to the ground, and then it's blood loss that finally settles you down.
Man.
It's too bad he couldn't just snap his neck real quick.
Or just get the knife at some point and just slice something, slow him down. Yikes.
The defensive wounds always get me. I know I say that every time we bring that up, but just for some reason, those just make me kind of get that stomach feeling.
Really?
Yeah.
When you watch horror movies and the person grabs the blade onto the knife and holds it, and you just see the blood start pouring out of their hands, like exactly like that.
The woman that Danny raped or attempted to rape last week, we talked about, that's how she got away. She grabbed the blade.
Ugh.
And I feel like in those horror movies, though, they don't even do it justice. Like, it's like that scene, and then that's it. Like, then they're getting killed. This guy had, 31 different stab wounds, plus all the, whatever else cuts he had. Like, this is a ton more than that, too, than just one grabbing of the blade.
Yeah.
And he's still fighting and fighting.
Must have been a mess in there.
Oh, for sure.
Tracy walked in to see what was going on and immediately turned around and ran to the bathroom, which was the closest area. She locked herself in, but Danny kicked down the door and bound her with tape like he did the other victims. He then raped her, stabbed her multiple times, and started to drag her body into the living room to pose her. In the living room, Danny realized that Tracy was still alive, so instead of killing her immediately, Danny raped Tracy again until she died. Danny posed Tracy similar to the others, but left Manuel's body alone. So this was Danny's last murder, but he wasn't done committing crimes. After leaving the apartment, he buried the murder weapon in gloves nearby, then jumped in the pool of another apartment complex to wash off. After he was cleaned, Danny headed back to his campsite to take a nap.
Why'd you go swimming in the morning and fucking Danny Rowling was taking a bath in your pool, washing all the blood off?
Just fucking blood floating around.
On Monday morning, August 28th, Manuel and Tracy were found, which caused the panic to skyrocket. Now the killer was willing to attack if a male was there. However, instead of planning another murder, Danny decided to rob a nearby bank. This was talking about that impulse control.
Needed walking around money. Who are you to judge?
At gunpoint, he told the bank teller to fill bags with money and that there better not be any dye packs in them. But down the road, there was a witness that saw the bags explode with pink dye shooting everywhere.
Look here, see, don't put any of that pink dye in the money or I'll get you.
Wasn't it fucking BTK who called the police and was like, can you trace back where these tapes come from?
Yeah.
You better not do any of that funny business. I'll send you the tapes, but you leave me be.
It was his floppy disk, right? Like his 5.25 floppy disk.
That's this guy. Don't give me any of that dye stuff.
You're sure this isn't the money with the dye, right? We should do that to somebody. We should order a dye pack and just go in like a heavy traffic area with like 101, like a stack of 100 ones and slip it in and just toss it out. And then videotape whoever grabs it.
I would do that.
That'd be a good time.
I'm in.
Do you remember the old CKY videos when Bam and Brandon Dicamillo, they went like outside an ATM with a $10 bill and put dog shit on it?
Oh, yeah.
And taped this. They picked it up and it dog shit all over their hands.
I've seen that.
Somewhere in this time frame, Danny met another drifter type guy named Tony Danzy, and the two of them became friends. And immediately after this pink dye shot everywhere, Danny saw Tony Danzy, but we'll get back to him in a bit.
Was it the guy from Who's the Boss? It was the male maid? Oh, it's Tony Danza. Oh, never mind. Hey, didn't you used to be on TV?
When news of Tracy and Manuel's murders broke, the police tip lines were flooded with calls. Very similar to the Son of Sam, women were calling in tips on ex-boyfriends or husbands. But there was one name that came in over and over, Edward Humphrey.
I feel like everyone has that one person who would pop in their head. Like if that happened here, you'd be like, oh, I wonder if it's blank. Like, do you have that person?
I feel like Dave has someone in mind.
No, I don't.
I don't think
it's not Jared from Just Brew Coffee, Mike, if that's what you're suggesting. Guy's a fine, upstanding citizen. He would never commit a crime.
I agree wholeheartedly, which is why I would never associate his name with that kind of sentence.
Someone that I know personally, or just like someone in town
like
that I've
someone
seen
in town, and you know, like a triple murder happens in town. Are you immediately like? I bet that was that fucking.
We think of the fucking Dodge Charger that's been driving around, right?
That
Challenger, that guy.
Challenger, that fucking guy.
See,
that's a tie-in for my wrap up in this story.
Oh, okay. Well, ... Stick around, folks. Ian's gonna tie this into a hometown shithead. I do agree. Like everyone's like, oh, I'm going to call. This has got to be so-and-so. Mm-hmm. No one off the top of my head, I would think like, oh, that motherfucker kills some people. At least nobody that's not in this room. But I wouldn't turn you guys in unless...
I would hope not.
Well, we've been down that road before. Just don't confess to me. Don't put me in a situation where I have to lie for you.
I wouldn't confess. I'd be like, hey,
Hey, buddy.
you don't have any flights to non-treaty, extradition treaty country tonight?
Perfect. I'd be like, you know what, pal? I'll get you set up right now. Or be like, hey, remember the Burbs? They're looking for bones in the backyard. You want to just recreate that real quick? Just for funsies. For funsies. Me and you in the backyard digging a thunderstorm. Ian's fucking on the roof with binoculars.
Do you have any cash or a credit card that's probably not in your name and not traceable to you at all?
Yeah, sure, pal.
I can maybe use for a little bit.
No problem. Were you going on vacation? All right, no problem. I'll get you set up. Officer, my good friend Dave was just going on vacation. He told me he just wanted to get away for a little while. Wanted to get away from the missus. That's all he said. I just gave him $1,000 cash. That's all.
And a plane ticket to Tehran. Oh, they don't have an extradition treaty in Tehran and Iran?
Oops, my bad. Can I interest you in being a host of a podcast?
We have an opening.
Yeah, we have an opening. Maybe you'd like to talk about...
He's probably not coming back anytime soon. But no, I can call in from over there. We can do the show. What are you talking about?
Art Bell did it, right?
Yeah. Did it from the Philippines for years. And if any listeners in Tehran could let me know what the how the internet speed is over there, just in case.
Dave is very interested in just knowing.
And if it's hard to learn Farsi or not, just drop me a line. Let me know.
There are $2,000 cash in a manila envelope taped underneath Dave's car, just in case.
Never know.
So not to judge his looks, but a lot of people found Edward Humphrey to look scary. He had pretty much the same exact scars as Heath Ledger's Joker, but his behavior is what just was kind of like the icing on the cake for his physical looks. Edward suffered from bipolar 1, meaning that he had full-blown manic episodes with delusions of grandeur, paranoia, auditory hallucinations, and lack of impulse control. This was heightened by the fact that Edward oftentimes did not take his prescribed medicine and huffed a whole bunch of gasoline.
It's not good for you from what I understand.
Nope. It's not going to end well. The manager of the Gatorwood Apartments, where Tracy and Manuel had been murdered, reported that Edward had been asked to leave after multiple complaints from his roommates that Edward was, quote, weird and walked in his sleep. When the manager and a maintenance worker tried to get Edward to leave, he got violent and threw a chair at them. He had also gotten in trouble similar to Richard Chase. If an apartment door was unlocked, Edward just assumed it meant that he could go in. And if it was locked, he would look through the windows. And this isn't all the time. This is during a manic episode, but not taking your medicine and huffing gas keeps it going a lot longer than coming down.
Yeah.
In early August 1990, Edward had been in Colorado where he got arrested for disorderly conduct, walking around manic and presumably high from huffing gas, telling people that he wanted to see what their insides looked like.
Maybe he was just quoting like Trent Reznor. I want to feel you from the inside, singing closer. Trying to give the guy the benefit of the doubt here.
He was held until his grandmother drove from Florida to pick him up and then drove Edward back to Gainesville. All this behavior was enough for police to focus their attention on Edward, and they waited for him to slip up so they could put him in custody and question him. And admittedly, especially the fact that when he was manic, that he got it in his head that he could walk in unlocked doors, that's a big issue.
Yeah,
that's a problem.
It seems like a plausible candidate for this. So
It seems like a plausible candidate.
Yeah,
His biggest
absolutely.
crime, though, thus far, his violent crime is throwing a chair at someone who is trying to kick him out of his house. Also.
Yeah.
I'm just saying also.
It seems like a lead they should at least follow up on.
They should follow up on. But there's not a ton of violent activity from this guy.
No.
Saying weird things and throwing a chair once. But I don't disagree. This would be a guy you would definitely keep your eye on.
Well, and walking in unlocked doors.
But not violent. He's not doing anything violent. He's not attacking anyone.
That you know of.
Right. You have no proof of.
While police were keeping an eye on Edward, he got into an argument with his grandmother and hit her. Edward's mother called the police and Edward was charged with aggravated assault. I don't know the specifics, but Edward was questioned for 24 hours without a lawyer present. When a public defender was assigned to Edward, police sent the lawyer away saying that there was no arrest in the Gainesville case because they didn't have enough evidence against Edward. But I don't know why he couldn't have a lawyer for his other, the assault problem.
Still in jail, so it's a public defender.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, they just told the public defender to get the fuck out.
No, that's not how it works.
Yeah. If I was a public defender, I'd have pulled the, Florida judicial law book out of my fanny pack.
Bam.
And I would have been like, excuse me, sir. Even though I'm wearing a suit, a coat, and Zubas, I am allowed to enter on behalf of my client.
I passed the bar. These pants say otherwise, but I passed the bar.
Right. These pants say I passed the bar, and I can also roundhouse kick your face off right now, should I so choose. I don't care if it's disorderly conduct, aggravated assault, or murder. I'm going to see my client.
That's what should have happened. I don't fully understand that.
I would love to see a scene where a lawyer and Zubas called out a police officer. I'd be a big fan of that guy. Big fan.
So Edward's grandmother attempted to drop the charges, but through legal maneuvering, the charges stuck, and Edward was sent to Brevard County Jail and held on $1 million bail, which, he looks like a good suspect, at least to look into, but it's fucking crazy to set his bail at $1 million with no evidence.
Told his attorney he's not arrested for that. We have no evidence, and he's not charged.
Right, but we're going to slap $1 million.
That's an inside job with the judge there.
First time aggravated assault, $1 million.
Yeah, because he didn't have an arrest record. This was the first time he had been arrested.
They were winking at the judge when they got that ruling.
Yeah. And police basically told the media that they had the Gainesville Ripper in custody, and the newspaper started running stories with it and with Edward's mugshot.
Which is not only nonsense for that guy, but also people start putting their guard down because they think he's in custody, and he's not.
It's irresponsible.
It's very irresponsible.
And like we said, though, this very well could have been and should have been a suspect or someone under watch.
Yeah.
But you have zero evidence at this point.
They just basically jumped right to it that he was the Gainesville Ripper.
Tunnel vision, like we've talked about numerous times, and stop looking for other suspects when they think they have their person like that.
How many cases do you think have been closed via tunnel vision?
A lot.
In a word, lots.
Like the wrong person was convicted of a crime.
Right, because of tunnel vision, and then because matters didn't shape out the way it does in a lot of these. That goes part of my, we've talked about it. We all agree. How many people are on death row because of that bullshit?
I would say at least.
And I don't even know. It's impossible to probably give an actual answer.
It is,
right?
But maybe 20% of the people incarcerated in this country are probably innocent.
Yeah. For you mean like for murder charges?
For anything.
You just mean in general.
Yeah. They got railroaded, and that's what they do. They overcharge you. So you take a plea bargain
for less, and they lock you up.
You're not going to risk 15 years if you can get away with serving 3, and that's what they do. So yeah,
I was
there's
thinking
probably a lot of people in jail.
More like the felony charges, the murder charges. How many people are arrested and charged or plead out, or the facts are manipulated and then they're put in jail.
We just had a guy here locally who was convicted 45 years ago of murdering his wife. Just let him out last week. A couple weeks ago.
Oops, our bad.
Yeah, sorry, 45 years, but
so
over half your life.
Yeah.
Statistically, according to the averages, about 975 innocent people are locked up every year. So almost 1,000 people a year are locked up.
I think it's probably a lot higher than that.
Is that just in general though? Like I was still looking at more of the murder charges and
that was just in general.
In general. Yeah. It's probably more.
Well, what do we have? 2.3 million people in prison in this country, most incarcerated country on earth. I would say.
Our prison population is more than a lot of countries' population, right?
Right.
At what point do we become Australia? Are we them? Are we them?
It's just prison population. Everyone's
them?
in jail.
Are we just that? Are we Australia now?
There's guards and inmates. That's the whole country.
Do we need to start drinking Fosters and they get the shit on us now?
Well, yeah. In a word, yeah.
So police got search warrants, but they found no evidence. However, Danny Rowling didn't kill again, and because the killing stopped once Edward was in custody, this made police believe it even more, that Edward was their guy. Which, that makes sense too. I mean, you can't really fault them for that. It's like, okay, the murder stopped while we have, so I get that part of it.
Yeah.
That's just confirming what they already believe.
Why did the murder stop? Are we going to talk about that later, or should we just jump to it now? That's very awesome timing.
Yeah.
Or did he know? Like once he killed that guy, what was it, Manuel? Okay, I've peaked. I've stopped. I need to stop. Like, because that actually did him some favors here for a little while, at least. It's very interesting that he didn't go back to it, because most serial killers do.
I think he probably would have.
So you think he stopped? He was on one of those like cool down periods, and then they started picking up Edward's scent, and he was like, all right, I'm going to let this play out.
I think he was transient and wasn't in a position to carry out those murders. I don't know that he saw Edward get arrested and go, hey, this is my chance to duck out. Let this guy take the fall.
So you just think he was just a happenstance in a cool down period?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he was taking his cool down period in the middle instead of how guys usually do it in the beginning. I think if he wouldn't have gotten caught, I think eventually he would have done this again.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, I agree too.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, I didn't know maybe this was like a planned thing. Like he kind of saw what was playing out and was like, all right, I'm going to go away now.
He comes up with some bullshit answers later on about what 8 victims means and stuff.
Okay.
In October 1990, Edward went on trial for assaulting his grandmother, and he was sentenced to 22 months in a state-ran hospital. He was released on September 18th, 1991, but he was never publicly cleared by the police and was still widely considered a suspect until Danny Rowling was sentenced. A nice postscript to Edward's story is that he was able to stop using drugs, took his medicine as prescribed, and became a successful business owner.
Hey, how about that?
Good for him.
Yeah.
Awesome story. Great ending. We'll see you next week.
It's the best way to stick it to the man, right?
Yeah. It really
make
is good for
something of
him. I mean, it seemed like that guy just had a real rough patch and got himself into a small bit of trouble. And then they, blew it up on him.
Yeah.
He sounded like he would have done well in a hospital setting, one way or another.
Edward would have.
Yeah. It sounded like that's what he needed.
Is he still like around, like giving interviews and stuff? Like,
I don't know if anything recent.
Yeah. Well, I think we even talked about off air, like the intensity of these crimes matches the worst of the worst we've ever covered. Yet Danny Rowling, you don't really hear about, right? And I know I'm coming from me, who's on the outside. I don't know any of this shit, but like you guys didn't really know much about a Danny Rowling. Is this just a forgotten story, or
I didn't
like, does this slip through the cracks of serial killers?
I remember when it happened. I don't know that I would have been able to pick his name out of a hat I remember the Gainesville Ripper.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like last week I said that a lot of the shows skip over on him, like Oxygen, stuff like that. But they actually have newer episodes from like last year, but they do gloss over the crimes. They don't get into the specifics of like what he actually did.
Like decapitating them and putting their
Right.
heads and tits and nipples and cutting all that off. And
Yeah. I mean, it's really, I can't think of a crime scene more graphic than his.
I have not seen, you've seen photos.
No,
Oh,
I didn't know if there were photos.
I don't know either. I'm not going to look. I always just think of the O.J. Simpson, Nicole Brown crime scene photos. Like that's the worst I've ever seen with regards to at least blood and just brutality and awfulness.
Ted Bundy going through Chi Omega is probably one of the most brutal killings you could read about. Just like absolutely like frantic.
Yeah.
But as far as like finding it, Danny Rowling's are so much worse than Ted Bundy's even.
Which goes back to then what you guys said, which makes sense. Like maybe he was sticking it to the police. Like, oh, I'm going to make your life a living hell because my dad was a cop and fuck him.
Yeah, that's completely plausible. And it was like prolonged torture and like that's real bad.
Yeah. I mean, his last victim, she was alive, bleeding out for an extended period of time while he was raping her. I mean,
but I know he's getting his sexual gratification. Okay. And that's fucked up as it is. So my question, like back to what we said, like with the crime scenes, what was he getting something out of it? Like watching it play out on the news? Who was the killer that used to like stand in the bushes and watch them find the body? We talked about him.
Oh, Peter Curtin.
So was he getting off on like watching like these photos come out or like the stories on the news? Or was it just, I'm going to stick it to the cops because fuck them?
I'm sure it's a little bit of everything, right?
I would think it's both. I'm sure you hate if your dad treats you like that when you grew up and he's a cop. I'm sure you hate cops.
I would imagine.
I'm sure you do.
I think that makes sense. Yeah,
because his father was also really nice to everybody on the outside of the
Which
world.
is what we said last week. Like,
everybody thought he was this great police
Makes it even
officer.
worse. Yeah. That's even worse then.
Right.
And is he doing some Peter Curtin? Probably
on top of that. Yeah. Seeing it play out in the news, seeing someone else get arrested for your crimes.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Good analysis, Mike. I agree.
Is there something interfering with your happiness? Something keeping you from achieving your 2020 goals? Let's face it, these are certainly trying times. From being cooped up inside your home to wondering how you're going to pay next month's bills, we're all experiencing some form of stress or strain on our mental health. And for that, BetterHelp is here for us. BetterHelp is an online mental health provider that will assess your needs and match you up with your own licensed professional therapist. The best part? No waiting rooms. That's a pretty big deal if you're as impatient as I am. BetterHelp is a safe and private online environment that will have you communicating with a counselor within the first 24 hours. And once you've begun, you can send your counselor a message at any time, always getting a helpful response in a timely manner. You even have the ability to schedule weekly video or phone sessions, all from the comfort of your very own couch. BetterHelp is available worldwide and has a broad range of expertise available, including licensed professional counselors who specialize in depression, stress, anxiety, relationships, sleeping, trauma, anger, family conflict, LGBT matters, grief, and self-esteem. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they're currently recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. Not happy with your counselor? No worries. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches and makes it easy and free to change counselors if needed. Remember, everything you share with your BetterHelp counselor is completely confidential. And while it's not a crisis line, it is a convenient, professional, and affordable way to seek the help you deserve. Financial aid is even offered to those who qualify. Want to hear how BetterHelp assisted people just like you? Check out the testimonials posted daily on their site. Look, we here at Necronomipod want you to start living a happier life. So, as a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting betterhelp.com/necro. Join over 1 million people already taking charge of their mental health. Again, that's BetterHelp, betterhelp.com/necro.
Finding a skincare routine that's easy to follow, easy to stick to, that delivers long-lasting results has been near impossible for most busy men and women. My wife has tried a lot of brands, all different products, all of which promised amazing results. The problem has been making time for complicated routines and way too many products to keep straight. She never used them correctly or constantly forgot a step and just gave up because she didn't see any real results. Hey Honey was a game changer for her. They use honey and bee propolis ingredients that have been used for centuries to create products that eliminate the need for overwhelming amounts of steps in order to see results. For example, the Good Morning Serum acts as a serum and makeup primer that hydrates the skin, all in one easy-to-use product, making it perfect for when you're short on time and it makes traveling a breeze. Hey Honey is real, using only real testimonies supported by over 1 million real reviews, promising the real results of each product, using real, clean ingredients, being a real planet-friendly brand, and is a real pro-grade line for fast-acting, long-lasting, multitasking, and self-adjusting. Visit heyhoney.com and use promo code NECRO for 20% off your first order. That's heyhoney.com, code NECRO for 20% off your first order. So, like we said before, Danny had become friends with another drifter named Tony Danzy. After Danny robbed the bank where that pink dye just shot all up in his face, he met up with Tony, where Tony gave Danny some acid and weed.
Not a towel. Wipe the pink stuff off his face. Hey, you're all pink. Here's some acid and some weed. I know Mike said not to do one, but do both of them.
Well, police were sitting not far from where Danny and Tony were. And while Tony was going to try and talk to the police, Danny just took off. Not surprisingly, instead of running, Tony just told police about Danny's campsite, where it was, and then Tony just went on his way.
Snitch. Damn. See that guy with the pink dye pack all over his face over there?
See that pink smoke running? Follow that.
At the campsite, police found items that would link Danny to the murders later on, but first they found the money with the pink dye on it, and now they were looking for Danny, who was on the run. The Gainesville murders were national news at this point, and Louisiana police saw a lot of similarities between the Gainesville murders and the unsolved Grissom family murders in Shreveport. An investigator on the case in Florida traveled to Shreveport, and they were able to link the posing of the victims, tape residue on the victims' bodies, and the vinegar used to clean the body.
And in all fairness, we shit on police investigations a lot. Good on the Louisiana or the Shreveport PD to kind of see that connection a few states away.
There's a good interview with one of the detectives from Louisiana, from Shreveport, and he said he was watching the news, and it's like, that really sounds familiar.
Good for them.
Police tested the body fluids from the scene in Shreveport and found that the person also had type B blood, which was the same as whoever committed the Gainesville murders. Shortly after this, someone in Shreveport, Cindy Jurasich, called Crime Stoppers and reported that Danny Rowling was possibly connected to the murders in both cities. The news report about the Gainesville murders made her think about Danny, who she met at a Louisiana church and started hanging out with her husband, Stephen. This is quoted from the Gainesville Times.
He'd come over every night for a while, and then one night, Stephen came in and he goes, "He's got to go." Stephen told her that Rowling had told him he had a problem, Jurasich said. And I said, "What kind of problem?" And Stephen said, "He likes to stick knives into people." Jurasich said she dismissed these comments when she heard about them because she didn't want to believe Rowling could be responsible for the murders in Shreveport. Danny also told her, "One day I'm going to leave this town and I'm going to go with where the girls are beautiful and I can just lay in the sun and watch beautiful women all day." News of the Gainesville murders haunted Jurasich. So she finally contacted police in November based on her hunch about Rowling's connection to the murders in both cities. "It would not let me rest," she said. "One day I picked up the phone, I called Crime Stoppers, and I said, I think there's one guy y'all need to investigate. Danny Rowling."
Wow. She had him pegged. Not the kind of pegging you like, Mike, but like she had him. She knew it was him.
She did well. Good for her.
Can you imagine it? Like, I know that's the guy I know.
Yeah, that'd be fucking crazy.
And just on a hunch.
Yeah. But like then turns out you're spot on. Like, that's the guy.
You're like the new super cop. Like, I'd be walking around like, they see me rolling. My fucking dick's 39 inches as opposed to the 30 inches it usually is.
She's applying at Quantico the next day to be an FBI agent.
So I don't know if you heard.
What's up, bitches?
I don't know if you heard. I fucking solved more crimes than all of you. She probably just put me on the fast course. It's like an easy pass I can buy like at Disney. Just put me to the front of the line. Who's Ray Biondi? She's fucking Ray Biondi over here, super cop.
Yeah.
When Danny took off after running from the police, he broke into the apartment of a student named Christopher Osborne, where he stole the keys to Christopher's 1978 Buick Regal and then drove toward Tampa.
Lucky he wasn't home, right? Whew. I wish that'd be interesting. It did a documentary on those people that like just missed being victims. Or like that, Danny was on that one when he was naked with the fanny pack on someone. Like someone lived there. Someone got lucky that night that they weren't a victim because someone spotted him.
and just get through.
I bet you're looking over your shoulder the rest of your life.
If you even know. You think those people even knew?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, good point. Probably not.
Was it difficult also back then? And I really don't know. Like, what are we talking about? Early 90s here? He was able to grab a guy's random keys and figure out what car it went to? Like, they didn't have like the little lock noise gimmick, did they?
I don't know, but I remember my grandma always had Buicks, and the keys for a Buick were different.
Really?
Very
so he
different.
Could just run out of the parking lot and find a Buick and get in and be like, "Oh, this works."
Yeah, I would have known.
I had a Buick Regal. I'm trying to remember what the...
Because like you couldn't just hit like the lock button and hear like that little bump bump.
At least on my grandma's, the part that you would hold was like real square and skinny.
Okay. Yeah, I don't recall. I mean, it could have been like a townhouse apartment where it was an attached garage, so you knew what car belonged to which apartment or something like that. But yeah, good point.
So I was just thinking like, motherfucker, it would take me an hour to find out. Oh, nope, not that.
Right.
Oh, nope, not that. Oh, nope, not that. All right.
Maybe it was numbered parking spots.
Could have been.
So once he was in Tampa, he robbed several houses, but left behind fingerprints and hair at all of these crimes that are just going to come back to haunt him later. He almost was caught as he fled from a convenience store robbery, but was able to run in some nearby woods and hide. Danny stole another car and headed for Ocala, where he attempted a robbery of a Winn-Dixie grocery store during the peak of Saturday afternoon shopping on September 8th, 1990. Which is fucking crazy. Like, it would be like going to a grocery store here on a Saturday afternoon. This is fucking wild.
It's not any different, 30 years later. On
Right.
Saturdays, people shop.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
So that's what I mean. Like, imagine you go to Walmart and this fucking guy just finds a manager at gunpoint, takes him back to the office and says, empty your safe.
For as much as he did with his murders to cover his tracks or to try to clean himself up, he was not good at the small crimes, the robberies.
I think that's where
he was very loose and reckless.
Well, I think that's where that impulse control issue comes in, that he just cannot control himself.
Driving by. I bet Winn-Dixie, they got a lot of money. They got a safe.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Just walk right in the middle of the day.
But then why were there no, and maybe there were, we don't know, why were there no random violent acts that way? Driving down the street. Oh, there's a person walking. I'm going to go brutally murder them.
That's true. There was a lot of planning and watching involved
with that. He said 5 days, he knew that one girl was living with Manuel or must have known. But then, there's a Winn-Dixie. Or in his mind, which was just a big distinction. If you murder, you got a plan. If you're going to rob, that's a quick job. I don't know. It's just different.
I don't know.
I don't expect answers. I'm just throwing out questions.
Yeah, great question.
Call me Brian Williams.
Okay, Brian Williams.
So he grabbed the manager at gunpoint and led him to the back office and told him to empty the safe. The store's bookkeeper was on her way back to work, and she called the police when she overheard what was happening outside the office, which at that point Danny fled in a stolen car. The store manager, Randy Wilson, followed Danny and was able to tell police exactly where he was. As Danny backed out of the parking lot where he stopped, the police pulled in and a high-speed chase began. Not long into the high-speed chase, Danny crashed his car and fled on foot into a nearby office, but as he left through the back door, the police were waiting for him and he was arrested. While Danny was waiting for trial for the robberies, police were putting things together, and Danny talked a lot to one specific prisoner, Bobby Lewis. I'm not exactly sure how these two were together because Bobby was on death row, and usually from everything, at least that I've read or seen, is that death row inmates are kept separate from the rest of the prison population.
You mean on death row?
Yeah, they're just kept there. But for some reason in Florida, Bobby Lewis and Danny were able to communicate.
Do you think there was ever a time when like a guy was on death row who was like put up with like a weekend drunk? Who's like, the guy's like, I'll see you on Monday. And the guy's like, no, you won't. Because that'd be cruel, right? Like that, you can't have that. Like you throw like the DUI guys in there with like the guys on death row and like, one of them's getting out in 24 hours. One of them will never see the sunshine again.
Yeah, they have different definitions of last meals. Guys like, I had a Wendy's triple before I got here. That's like,
It's not funny, but it's comical.
It's a little fun.
I feel like there's a sitcom there, right? There's a sitcom. Get some laugh tracks behind that.
like a buddy comedy that's just one guy's death row and the other guy's like
or maybe a movie, because you can't really do a whole sitcom, like a movie where one guy's in there for 48 hours and the other guy's like on his, there for ever.
Yeah, you could do a series like the guy just keeps getting stays from the Supreme Court and stuff. It's like, I'm still here, buddy.
But I mean, like the guy who's only there for a short time. You gotta have a reason for him to be back.
Maybe he's doing
He
a
just keeps
6
getting
month
drunk.
in count,
Or he just keeps getting drunk.
Maybe he's doing 6 months in county, but they transfer him to death row by accident. Then they don't have any room for him, so he's stuck there for 6 months. Yeah. That's not a bad idea.
Did we just write a script? Did we just write an awesome script?
It's not bad.
This is almost as good as Teddy Roosevelt banging Hermione. I believe that's on Patreon, though, right?
I think so.
Yeah, well, join Patreon, hear more of that.
Rough Rider, motherfucker.
We wrote a fantastic script on that one.
Gets a little looser on Patreon.
So does Hermione.
Apparently. It was adult Hermione.
Yes.
Just for people inquiring.
Of course.
Right.
Well, what? Emma Watson is only a few years younger than I am, right?
Yeah,
but
sure.
It just depends on what Hermione
well,
we're
that's not
talking
my
about.
fault. She's been making movies for 107 years. Come on.
Adult Hermione.
It's adult Hermione, of course.
I like this death row buddy comedy. That's a really good idea.
It's a good one. Like the guy just keeps planning for life after, and his buddy's like, "Oh, I'll get you." Laugh track ensues. Like everyone,
It's like the Odd Couple, but on death row.
Yeah. Oh man,
it's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Siri, how do you write a sitcom?
We're gonna be like fucking Jerry and George sitting here with like legal pads. Like, all right, you enter. Hey, buddy. Hi. That's right. What, new shoes? I like new shoes.
We got to sell this idea before this show comes out. People can't steal our idea.
I hope Netflix is listening.
He can tell stories about his murder and stuff.
Yeah.
How he killed people.
Executive producers, Dave Namapod, Mike Namapod, Ian Namapod. A Cool Down Media production from Netflix.
Should we take this to HBO or Showtime? Who's going to want this?
Take it to all of them. Who's going to pay us for this gold mine? This is Emmy written all over it.
It is really funny, actually.
It could be like a dramedy, right? Like they develop a friendship.
Yeah, I think so.
But you know where this is heading. This is like Green Mile type shit, right?
Like a 3-season arc with it ending as, and the guy gets executed.
The last, the penultimate episode, like the friend could be testifying on his behalf, like really dramatic scene why he should be left alive. Such a good person, the friendship, the relationship they built. The things he admitted to him, he knows he's innocent. Maybe get a little Shawshank.
Innocent.
Maybe get a little Shawshank in there.
I was just having him talk about his murder.
No,
all right, he's innocent.
no. Maybe a little Shawshank where like the guy did time somewhere else in like a jail, knew who did the killing,
but he gets executed anyway. And the end of the show is that the short time guy gets out and scatters the ashes of the guy that was executed.
I 100% agree.
Boom. Or he smokes them or something cool.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
He just rolls a blunt with him.
It ends like fucking Big Lebowski. It just all blows back in his face. Good night, sweet prince.
That's fantastic.
So that was a half hour of our lives we just spent to that, which we will all sober up tomorrow and realize we will never touch again.
All right, so what happened to Danny?
If we remember when H.H. Holmes was arrested, he wanted to impress a famous train robber he was locked up with. And so he just started confessing to everything. And this was similar. Bobby Lewis was the only man to ever escape Florida's death row. And like we talked about in part 1, Danny escaped from jail multiple times. So he was trying to impress Lewis. He told Bobby Lewis about all of the murders, and on January 31st, 1993, Danny agreed to confess to police through Bobby Lewis.
Well, that's a couple years later. It took a long time, huh?
Yeah, they just had him sitting there.
Wow.
During the 3-hour confession, Danny did not answer any of the investigators' questions directly, but confirmed the answers given by Bobby Lewis on his behalf. Through Lewis, Danny confessed to planning and committing the 5 murders in Gainesville, but said that a demon named Gemini had taken over his mind.
I picture this like a ventriloquist dummy, and Danny has his thumb or his hand up Bobby's ass, and Bobby's talking for him. The Gemini killer did it.
If I was the police, I would be so fucking annoyed with this. Like the things that serial killers do to like get under the skin of investigators sometimes.
Which again goes back to like maybe Danny sticking it to like the police.
Yeah.
Like, I hate you.
It's like that scene, that one guy who saw the high pitched like imaginary friend in the police station with him while he was interviewing, while the cops were talking to him. He was calling him names, and Joseph
Callinger.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like enough.
Yeah.
He's talking through someone else.
That.
You're a pussy. Don't talk to the police. Remember, he was yelling at him in a high pitched voice.
Charlie, his floating head.
That's right. You're a pussy.
That also sounds like, what was the bonus show we did?
Can you be a little more specific?
On the, no, I'll think of it. I'll think of it. That voice.
But this is like Israel Keys too. You know,
I've never heard of her.
Never heard him.
No, I don't think we'll ever cover that one.
But he did stuff like kind of like this, where
taunting them,
and he wanted a specific type of coffee before he would talk. And
well, hopefully it was Tim Hortons, because that's the best.
It's like you want to do like Dark Knight for a second, like Batman slamming the Joker's head off the table. Like cops just like turn the camera for a second.
I don't condone that activity, Ian.
I was gonna say, you guys are laughing at that. That's a stray.
Police were satisfied with Danny's confession, but they didn't buy the evil Gemini aspect of his story, because they knew from their investigations that Danny had watched The Exorcist 3 during the week of the Gainesville murders, and the killer in the movie is possessed by a serial. It's a demon, right? That he's possessed by, or is it the spirit of a serial killer?
Like the demon that possessed the Gemini killer, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
oh man, it's been a long time since I've seen that. I think that's right.
But that's exactly where Danny pulled
obviously
Gemini from. Soon after the confession, Bobby Lewis was moved from the ward, which caused Danny to feel like he was betrayed by Bobby, like these two were supposed to be friends forever. But Danny quickly found someone else to run his mouth to, and a prisoner named Rusty Binstead. This
I don't know why I find that name funny.
God damn, pal.
The name Rusty is just funny. I don't know. Like, it makes me think of Rusty Trombone, and I just start laughing at it. Jesus.
The guy's 85 years old. He's laughing at Rusty Trombone names.
This time, instead of only talking, Danny wrote the details down in letters and gave them to Binstead.
You mean Rusty?
It reminds me of Christmas Vacation.
Yeah.
Or any of the vacations, really, but Christmas Vacation mostly. That's what I think of.
Yeah, fair enough.
You think
not a rusty trombone?
No. Dave, what is a rusty trombone? I don't get it.
A rusty trombone is a rim job while you're getting a reach around hand job.
That's what it is, right? Yeah,
I think that's right.
Blowing on the butthole while you're pulling the front. Oh, good times.
Only one person in this room has their own Urban Dictionary entry, and it's not Ian or I. So
that's true.
You're in vaunted company there, pal.
There's actually merchandise that Urban Dictionary sells with my word on it. That's unbelievable. What was it? It's a trepaculation, right?
Yeah.
Which was the original act was what? Like
trepanning.
Yeah,
trepanning, which is where you jerk off. Oh,
no,
you fuck a skull.
That's the drilling. The drilling of the hole is the trepanning.
And then we were making the joke of it when you you start fucking the hole.
Yeah, and ejaculate in it.
And it's called trepaculate.
Trepaculating.
Yeah.
Because that's what Rocktario did. He drilled that hole, and then after that lady died, he jerked
Rocktario
off.
available in the archives.
Yep.
2 parts, I believe.
No.
One? Ian said that like he wants another shot at that one.
That could be a redo. There's a lot more there.
Stop it. Stop it. We're not redoing 2019, Ian. It is what it is. Anyways, yeah. So trepaculate is now officially on. Someone uploaded it or put it in on Urban Dictionary, and it is there.
Yep.
And credits our show, and you can buy merchandise with trepaculate on.
That's right.
it.
Do you get a cut of that money?
No, sir. No, I do not. And I'm fucking pissed about it.
Sorry.
That's my intellectual property, and they fucking stole it.
It's true.
Actually, it's my drunk-intellectual property, and they fucking stole it. Either way, it's mine. Any hoodles, that's fine.
All right.
So Danny gave the original to Binstead with instructions to take a copy and then return it to him. Instead, when Binstead returned to his cell, he told the prisoner in the cell next to him to wait 5 minutes, then yell shakedown. When he did, Binstead flushed his toilet to make Danny believe that he had flushed the letter down the toilet, then went and handed it over to prison guards.
Clever.
3 weeks before the trial was scheduled to begin, Danny asked for a meeting with his attorney, public defender Richard Parker. During this meeting, Danny expressed his desire to plead guilty. Parker attempted to convince Danny that although there was a ton of primary evidence against him and his videotape confession really hurt his case, there was still a strong case for mitigating factors against the death penalty.
So his attorney's name was Dick Parker. That was Mike's. That was one of Mike's college nicknames. He parked his dick in every open garage on campus.
And they get a stamp. It said Dick parked.
I'll validate your ass.
Yeah. They'd walk around campus just wearing shirts that said validated, and then I would know that it was fair game. Free parking, if you will.
If Danny would maintain his not guilty plea, Parker would attempt to use Danny's life story of abuse and the psychiatric evaluations, which established Danny's mental illnesses of antisocial personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and paraphilia. By pleading guilty, Parker warned him the likelihood of receiving a death sentence was much stronger, and it would leave no opportunity to have a conviction overturned in an appeal. You could only appeal the sentence, which not very many people are getting off a death row.
No.
Which would be funnier for our little film or show.
If they got off?
No, just the overall, like, you know, maybe every now and then his buddy who's only there for 6 months makes a little jab about like, well, I'll be out of here in 6 months. What are you
doing for next Thanksgiving?
I'll be fucking your wife. You know, just good, tasteful humor like that with a laugh track.
He asked him like how his wife likes her bird stuff and like double entendres like that.
Be great.
Hey, you're not going to be around next year to help your wife stuff the bird. Maybe I'll stop by. Like, can we have a dark ending now where he like cuts off the guy's face or something and somehow like switches places with him?
Well,
they execute the wrong guy.
Now we're getting ridiculous.
Like, that's better.
Maybe. All right, we'll see. We'll see. Look, if Netflix buys it, they can do whatever the fuck they want to it. If HBO buys it, they can do whatever the fuck they want to it. Just pay me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Regardless of the warnings, Danny went ahead with the change, and he said that the reason was that he didn't want the crime scene photographs to be shown. Parker asked Danny to take the 3 weeks before the trial date to think about it.
Sounds like he wanted the death penalty.
The week before the trial, Danny signed a 3-page agreement at the Florida State Prison, which effectively made his new guilty plea official. Just in case, Parker met with Judge Stanley R. Morris to inform him of Danny's plea and requested that it not be announced until February 15th, when jury selection began. The only person to be informed of Danny's decision was prosecutor Rod Smith. In the courtroom on February 15th, there were a few members of the public and media. The families of the victims were all present, but no one from Danny's family was there. His mother was suffering from cancer, and she was too sick to be there. The only person that was there to support him was his fiancée, Sandra London, who we are definitely going to talk about at the end.
It came out of fucking nowhere.
That's quite a story there.
It's Danny's announcement that he would be pleading guilty was received with shock and just the complete silence in the courtroom. Danny had taken complete responsibility for the murders. All that was needed to be determined by the jury was whether or not he would receive the death penalty. It was the responsibility of the jury to weigh the aggravating factors presented by the prosecution and the mitigating circumstances presented by the defense. According to Florida law, there were 11 possible aggravating circumstances. At least one of these needed to be proved by the prosecution for the jury to determine that the death penalty was warranted. The defense had no restrictions on what evidence it could use as mitigating factors, and only 7 of the 12 jurors needed to be in agreement to make a recommendation to the court, and it was then up to the judge whether or not he would accept it. So opening arguments began on Tuesday, March 7th, 1994. The prosecution claimed that it would be successful in proving 5 of the 11 possible aggravating circumstances. The crimes were cold-blooded and premeditated. The crimes were committed during sexual battery. The crimes were particularly heinous, atrocious, and cruel. The offender had a prior history of felony convictions. The crimes were committed for the purpose of escaping detection or avoiding arrest, particularly in the cases of Sonia Larson and Manuel Taboada.
I don't hear any wrong statements there.
Yeah, there's definitely enough evidence for all that.
There's a lot of aggravating circumstances.
The defense would attempt to prove the following mitigating circumstances. Danny suffered mental illness at the time of the crimes. The crimes were committed under extreme stress. Danny grew up in an abusive household, and there was a history of drug and alcohol abuse, and that Danny showed remorse for what he had done. Danny hoped that by pleading guilty, it would save him from having the details of his crime made public, but he was way off on that. State Attorney Rod Smith made sure that everything was presented in the death penalty case. So one by one, prosecutor brought forward the state's evidence against Danny. The DNA matches with the semen found at 3 of the sites, because once they got that matching blood type and they had the confessions, then they moved on with doing the DNA because, you know, back in the early 90s, it was so expensive.
Yeah.
But they wanted to really hammer this home that they had their guy. Items found at Danny's campsite, including the screwdriver, duct tape, and a pair of black pants stained with Manuel Taboada's blood, a handwriting match from a note found at one of the scenes, many of the details of the murders and the crime scenes told to inmates by Danny, proof of Danny's purchase of a K-bar knife matching the one that was used in the murders, the handwritten confession given to Rusty Binstead, and finally the videotaped confession Danny made to investigators through Bobby Lewis.
Seems like a lot of evidence, and also stuff you probably shouldn't keep at your campsite if you're a murderer.
Agreed.
The prosecutor then presented a long list of Danny's violent crimes, which alone was a strong mitigating factor. In total, Danny was held responsible for 8 counts of armed robbery and 1 count of attempted robbery, 1 count of armed bank robbery, and 2 counts of aggravated assault of a police officer, which these were committed over 4 different states. As things started to wrap up, Court TV did an interview with Danny's mother from her home, where Danny's father could be heard screaming off camera, giving everybody a taste of that abusive side.
Well, I mean, in his defense, he did shoot him in the fucking head.
That's true.
I'm not sure I would be all that happy.
But that also plays to his benefit, right? It's showing off that he's got an abusive dad if he's yelling in the background.
Yeah, I suppose. But
so, I mean, that could work either way. depending on how you want to play it.
Are you talking about our fucking kid that shot me in the head? Like he's in the other room
prosecution
screaming.
can be like, you see, he shot this man. He's upset. The defense can be like, you see how angry this guy is? He's been this way his whole life.
Danny's mother also testified to the abuse.
Yeah.
Even though they were still married. And
guy who's got a bullet wound in the middle of his head is like, fuck you.
On April 20th, 1994, Danny Rowling was sentenced to death for the 5 murders in Florida. Shortly before he was executed in Florida for the Gainesville murders, Danny admitted to the Shreveport gruesome murders, handing Reverend Mike Hudspeth and Florida police a handwritten confession and apology. Danny had a last meal of lobster tail, sang a gospel hymn, but made no statement immediately before his execution, which was witnessed by many of the victims' families.
I have a question, and maybe we'll cover this on a bonus show one day, because we said we were going to do a whole show on last meals. Who cooks the last meals? Are these prison chefs making it?
Oh, that's a good question.
Where you're like,
can you get a real chef to maybe cook my
or
meal?
like, are they getting it delivered in? Like,
They
are
probably
they bringing
order out.
Are they bringing a lobster in for the prison chefs to cook up for him?
No, that doesn't make sense, does it?
No, they would just order it.
But
from
why do
somewhere.
they
think so.
care? Yeah, you think they order it out?
Probably easier just to order it out.
Like done.
They're like, Olive Garden, we need some, chicken parm,
Yeah.
a lobster tail, breadsticks, whatever else. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, the nearest restaurant now is on call for like preparing whatever this guy wants. I mean, a lot of these prisons are not close to restaurants. They're kind of out, a little bit removed from cities. There's not a ton of restaurants
It's an
around these
interesting
places.
question, the logistics around this. We're going to have to talk about that in the show.
Are they just brought in cold and they're like, fuck it, we don't give a shit. You're going to be put to death. Here's your, we delivered this from Cleveland. It's 90 minutes away. Here's your lobster tail and your filet. It's cold.
It's a great question. We have that. My wife ordered that book for us upstairs. Whole book on last meals and whatnot. So we got some good source
But
material.
I wonder if it gets into that, though. Like, I know it probably doesn't.
We have to call some wardens and ask,
Where does it come from?
what's the logistics around having that food delivered?
I don't want to be challenging in any way. Like, I just want to know realistically, where do you get it from?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Or do you ship it in and you have your own kitchen staff cook it? I don't know.
Because they're not really concerned with how well it's cooked, right?
Exactly.
Like, they don't
That's
care
my
about
point.
the quality
Like-
of what they're
Like,
serving.
are they just like, whatever, fuck this? Like, they're prison cooks. Are they really cooking lobster?
Yeah.
Like, they don't know what the fuck.
like inmate Rusty in the kitchen? He can cook the meal. We don't give a fuck what it tastes like. While he's giving himself a reach around.
I mean, so what I'm saying is,
He's cooking, getting a rusty trombone.
are you better off just ordering like chicken wings because they're going to come from like the sports bar down the street?
Good point.
Like a lobster, it sounds delicious, but is it even really going to be, prepared?
I would order whatever, like chicken tartare will give you explosive diarrhea. So there's one last fuck you. They got to clean me up when I shit myself.
But then you just not enjoy your last meal? Like, you think you'll enjoy chicken tartare though?
Well, probably not.
Yeah. You want to enjoy at least something, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
All right, chicken tartare and a bottle of whiskey.
I don't think you're getting a bottle of whiskey.
Well, you could try, right? You could try.
You can always ask.
What's the worst they're going to do? Say no? Because then at least you could eat all the chicken and just drink all the whiskey and then be like, well, now you're in big trouble. Now I'm going to be fucking hungover, explosive diarrhea.
Better way. What a way to go, right?
Right. All right. Anyways, I have questions about all that.
Evacuate this earth and evacuate your bowels all over the floor of the death chamber.
So Danny was executed by lethal injection at Florida State Prison on October 25th, 2006, after the U.S. Supreme Court rejected a last-ditch appeal. He was pronounced dead at 6:13 p.m.
Did they have any of those people outside cheering like they did for Bundy? And
I'm sure.
yeah, they always gather out there.
In the tie-in to Eileen Warnos that I said, the guy who was filing his appeals was Steve Glazer, Eileen's lawyer that was
Really?
scamming all the money or using her for
interesting.
profit. Mhm.
Really?
Yeah. And Jeb Bush was the one that signed Danny Rowling to death.
As he did Eileen Warnos, right?
Same year it happened. He kind of cleaned house in 2006. And multiple people were put to death. I don't know if that was
gotta
an
get
election year or something.
You got to get those votes, right?
Yeah. I didn't know if he was
midterm
up.
elections.
probably was,
midterm
yeah.
elections at least.
So yeah, he kind of cleaned house on death row.
Or was it that time that a lot of states started blocking or prohibiting the death penalty? Maybe he was anticipating like a Supreme Court ruling on the death penalty and wanted to kill as many people as possible before they had to put the brakes on. I don't know. It was a long time
I don't
ago.
know. It could have been.
So wrapping up with Sandra London, she said that she was first inspired to write about crime after reaching a plateau in her career as a technical writer. She contacted serial killer G.J. Schaefer, an ex-cop who was doing 2 life sentences for murder, and Sandra dated him in high school. The two of them started collaborating on a book of writings by Schaefer that were supposed to be fiction, but they pretty much described his own crimes.
That's nice.
Yeah. They released a collection of short stories titled Killer Fiction. And during this time, Schaefer became increasingly obsessed with Sandra and started telling her details of his crimes in prison visits and handwritten letters. Sandra ended the professional relationship with Schaefer after he threatened to kill her if she were to ever show authorities his incriminating letters. Sandra went on to file these written threats and confessions with the court in defense of a lawsuit that Schaefer filed against her because, according to him, she was falsely stating Schaefer was a serial killer. After reading 500 pages of Schaefer's handwritten statements, the judge threw out that lawsuit. Kind of a good thing that came out of this was that because of Sandra London turning this stuff over, 2 cold case murders that Schaefer committed in Ocala National Forest were solved.
That's good.
Yeah. In the National Forest. Otherwise, those would have been attributed to missing 411, right?
That's a good point.
Case closed.
Sandra then collaborated with Danny Rowling in writing The Making of a Serial Killer, the real story of the Gainesville murders. It's kind of like a memoir, which included Danny's confessions along with other capital crimes that Danny had not been charged with that he claimed he committed. And then the two of them got engaged and then started a romantic relationship. The book ended up being published by a company called Farrow House and was illustrated with 50 pictures hand-drawn by Danny while he was in prison. Sandra and Danny were sued by the state of Florida under the Son of Sam law, which had been declared unconstitutional by the U.S. Supreme Court. It really fought back against the Son of Sam law. Sandra London.
Did she win? Or is that the case that
No, the book
got it thrown out, the law thrown out?
Yeah.
Oh.
The book, you can get the book on Amazon. There's a second printing.
Gross.
I started to read it and I'm like, it's all that Gemini bullshit that Gemini made him do it.
What are the other crimes he confessed for that he was...
I didn't read the full book for that. I started reading it and I'm like, this is really obnoxious.
Yeah.
Because it's really just him writing a book and Sandra put her name on it.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's awful.
What's this deal with Sandra London, though? 2 different
She's
killers,
like this
and she's just
serial killer kind of groupie.
like a fetishist for it.
Yeah.
Fangirl.
Yeah?
The serial killer.
Okay.
Conjugal visits in Florida, yes or no?
I don't know.
Probably not, huh?
Legally, no. Ted Bundy, the woman that got obsessed with him that he used to date back in high school or whatever, they fucked in the...
She had a kid, didn't she?
Yeah, he got her pregnant while he was fucking on trial for murder.
I don't think they do that anymore in most places. That kind of got frowned upon.
He wasn't allowed to.
Oh.
They just snuck and did that in one of like the visiting areas.
Oh.
Lacks supervision. So we'll blame that on.
So that's the story of Danny Rowling.
I'm not a fan of Danny.
This is not at all what I expected it to be when we put this on the agenda.
No?
Just really intense.
Yeah,
like
it's a
2
lot.
weeks of just hardcore murder and gruesomeness and
It's awful.
psychoticness and sad story too. Like, I mean, we talked about last week. I don't want it to go on, forgotten was the abuse and like the head trauma he suffered, along with the mental health issues too.
I guess that's the question everybody's always going to ask is what causes this to happen? Because there's people that
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's real victims in this story who were murdered and brutalized and raped and all of that. I don't mean to minimize that by any means.
I'm happy to see him go. Good death penalty case.
This
Someone
is
the world could do without.
He didn't deserve to be fed 3 meals a day.
No,
and,
glad he's gone.
Yeah, I don't agree, but okay. We've had this debate 1,000 times. It's boring at this point.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. There's just no room.
No.
I also think rape should be punishable by death, but...
All right. On the next show, we'll talk about that in depth for 4 hours.
On what, rape being punishable by death?
Yeah.
Another fun-filled episode.
It's just, I don't know, just a level of...
brutality.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't ever want to think about this guy again.
It's the only guy that's...
Putting him to death does not change that.
Change what?
Like, we're still thinking about this guy again. Oh, I thought you were still making an argument for the death penalty.
you want to keep it going?
No.
No, I thought he was. I didn't.
No, I said I don't ever want to think about this guy again.
No, it's
I'm glad he's off the planet.
It's terrible. It's a terrible guy. Killing doesn't make killing right, but still.
He's the only one that's bothered me writing about it. Like, actually made me kind of paranoid feeling.
We talked about it earlier. Like, he's low key one of the worst we've ever discussed.
It's the randomness, because some guy could come to your back door and jimmy that fucking lock open and you're asleep and he could put one through your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it could happen to anybody.
And the thing is like you said, Mike earlier brought up our hometown asshole in the Black Challenger. You know, that guy is looking at people. He's skirting right on the line of there being an issue, but looking in windows. And
there's a guy driving around town looking at kids playing, and he's taking pictures of them, driving around with no shirt on, like a super creep, but not crossing that line of illegality.
But the thing is that everybody, like a Danny Rowling, a Golden State Killer, they all started by looking in windows and watching people.
Exactly right.
If any of the three of us end up dead, let's look at some Black Challengers, right?
Yes.
Continue the shows, one man down, and we'll solve that case.
This guy should be the number one suspect for anything like that in town.
If something happens,
absolutely.
For sure. Yeah. But between that guy...
we're calling you out, Challenger. Fucking come at us.
Well, I live near a school, close enough to a school, and I saw him there, and I opened up my front door. And as soon as I opened my front door, he took off.
You don't want none of that cool down media coming after him.
So that's
he knows.
Between that and then reading this, and then a little bit of weed mixed in, those three things, I was fucking paranoid one night.
You're gonna throw down.
Oh boy.
Fucking walking out of his house like he's Danny Trejo.
And I was laying in bed and I'm thinking about Danny Rowling because I just got done reading the book. Like, I finished it up and I'm like, I'm going to get up and just check all my locks. And I've never done that with any true crime stuff before, but this one really, really bugged me.
Yeah.
You know what else helps, Ian? If you close your curtains.
My curtains are closed.
Yeah, I know. You do well with that.
Sometimes I don't,
This guy, not so much, but you do well.
Sometimes I forget and I don't. And I'm actually just sitting right next to the window with it wide open at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, with the fucking parking lot across the street.
Yeah.
When we're just fucking looking in.
But after the Challenger thing the other week, I've made sure that I close them at 8 o'clock.
I hope they get that guy for whatever he's done, because it's just weird. I'm not saying he's a killer or a murderer or whatever, but when you're fucking parking across from schools, you're taking pictures of kids at parks.
Mm-hmm. Let's do something now before we have to do something after the fact.
Exactly.
Every creep that looks in windows doesn't become a murderer, but every sexual murderer that looks in windows, or every sexual murderer looked in windows at one point.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. Also, did you say Danny Trejo? Like, you think Ian's all stoned looking in his mirror like, am I Machete? I'm Machete, right?
Well, first of all, when I think of Danny Trejo, I think of a fucking badass. And so I think like Ian's like walking out of his house with like a machete and just like, a gun around his neck. And he's just like, come on, let's go. I'm coming after you,
He starts hacking up the Challenger with the machete.
Right.
You fuck with Machete in my neighborhood.
That movie is so good. That's
great.
a bet. Any movie
Fantastic.
Danny Trejo's in.
I was pretty hot when I opened up the front door.
You know, Danny Trejo's got a beer also that's out.
Oh, yeah?
Available locally. Just had it this weekend.
Really?
Yeah.
Good?
It's like a Mexican lager. It's good.
Okay.
It's good. I would never tell him it was anything other than excellent, but it's also very good. I liked it. I like Mexican beers. You do too. You'd like it.
I do.
All right, Ian, final thoughts. I know we kind of summed it all up, but you got anything else?
The only thing that I had was that there was a message sent to me by Nicolette Thomas that Danny Rowling was the inspiration for Scream.
I think I read that, actually. That makes sense.
The guy who wrote the the script
Screenplay?
or whatever, the screenplay, ended up reading about him, like how Danny Rowling did this weekend of these real quick college murders and.
All right. You know, that first one when he was naked, I thought that maybe that was his MO the whole time. And did you ever see the movie 10 to Midnight?
No.
In the 80s with Charles Bronson, the guy who stripped down and killed girls like that. It's really good. Good old slasher film from the 80s.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it's awesome. That's what it reminded me of.
They wear a fanny pack at least.
I know. Butcher knife, completely naked. Maybe some socks. I don't remember.
I think we should get some Necronomipod fanny packs.
Packs?
Wonder if those would sell.
Not to me, they won't.
Oh, I'd buy one for sure. Fucking rock that thing all the time. Nothing in your pockets, Dave. Think of how free you'd be. You could sit, no wallet, no phone. You're comfortable.
I do like to be comfortable.
I'm just saying. Try it out with your Zubas. Come on.
I feel like a fanny pack would be good for the zoo. I could get on board with that.
Yeah, why not? You have all your cash right there.
Yeah.
Good to go. Like,
I want my Dippin' Dots.
You think of it to the zoo. Like, when I go to the zoo, of course.
He's picturing himself with Steelers Zuba pants and a fanny pack, walking around the zoo. He's like,
that was
could be
the
awesome.
greatest thing ever.
Power walking into the gorillas.
Just walking around with your family with your black and yellow Zubas and your fanny pack.
Speed walking. Come on, kids. We're almost at the giraffes. What's the holdup?
The primates are right up here. Come on.
What are you guys in slow motion?
He's got like little weights on his ankles. All right, Dave, you got any final thoughts on this
I
one?
don't have anything. I fucking hate this guy.
He is a piece of shit.
I don't want to ever think about him again.
Not a good guy. He went out with lobster, though. That's something.
It's not bad.
We really should do that bonus show on Last Meals. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, we should.
I want to talk about all of it. All right, we got some patron shout-outs. Got some good ones tonight. God damn, there's a lot of them. Ooh-wee. All right, first, thank you very much to Rosie, Aussie Gibbo, Kai, Jason Benson, Lizzie, Johnny Schmuff, Marmaduke Shazbot, Caitlin Dalvalley, Andrew Fitchell, The Real Girl Meat Hunter, Brandy, Megan Connolly, or Megan Connolly, Peyton Graham, Carolyn Day, Gary Roberts, Ashley Luongo, Daniel Strasberg, Ruby Tuesday, Terry Ward, Anna Armbruster, Armbruster, Anna Armbruster, Josh, Carrie Roberts, Amanda, Dylan Funk, Melissa A. Delap, Andrew Martin, Zoe Dalton, doing this for the Speedway Raccoon updates. Ian, we got any Speedway Raccoon updates?
Nope. I quit smoking, and I quit my vape,
So you're telling us
do not see them anymore.
So now we're losing patrons because of you.
Yeah.
How dare you, sir?
I could give other random updates on animals that I see throughout my life, but yeah, no more raccoons.
That'd be beneficial, at least.
Your lungs thank you.
Your lungs thank you. The patrons don't.
This is the longest I've gone since 8th grade.
Let's keep it up.
Good for you, man.
Yeah. I did see some deer not that long ago that I tried to walk up and pet, but they ran away.
Yeah, probably. Because they're not fucking raccoons who are eating trash.
I was
who
down
want to
on,
bond with you.
You know, the playground down by my house?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was down there with my kids and there was a baby deer and I went walking up and trying to pet it. But then the mom came out. I'm like, nope. I'm going to turn around and walk away.
They saw Bambi. They know how that ends.
Then the dad came out and put an antler through his rib cage.
He had a fisticuff with a daddy deer. Thank you to Colin, Madison Renee 04, Maria Fernandez, Mr. Juan, Dewey, Mahisa Mara, The Dude, Ratchet Saturn Girl, Justin Wiki, Tanner, Cynthia Christ, Ryan Walburn, Ryan McDowell, Jared Tegerden, Lucy Elseman, Tommy Goodwin, Nicole Bauman, Abby Flickinger, Mackenzie Lubitz, Philippa, Lisa Anand, Dwayne Peterson, Rose, Trevi B, Marnie Lovelyn Bopsdork, Tessa Vogel, JJ Stenard, Nathan, and Joshua. Thank you very much to all of you. To all of our patrons, we have $1, $5, and $10 levels, but we also have a few people that pledge or are patrons for more than $10. And we want to give a special shout out to all of you. So thank you very much if you give more than the $10 level.
Hall of Fame.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. A few $20 and plus even. Thank you very much. It's unnecessary, but we appreciate it. Thank you. Ian, what do you got?
For iTunes, I have one for Brian153, Rad Mark, and ISU Barts03. Thank you guys for the awesome reviews.
Dave, what do you got?
I don't have anything particular at all.
Nothing tonight.
Pass from me.
Hard pass. We are on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at Necronomipod. Amazon.com, search Necronomipod. Patreon.com/Necronomipod. Also, if you go to Necronomipod.com, we still have our 3-pack of stickers on sale. It's a Halloween exclusive we've extended. $6.66 for a 3-pack of stickers.
Might go away at any time. You never can tell.
Yeah, we don't know. Could sell out any minute. We're getting close. Go check it out. But that's at Necronomipod.com. Necronomipod.com is the only place where you can buy merch directly from us. The rest is from Amazon.com. And if Amazon is the seller, you know it's legit. If it's from anybody else, it's bootleg and they're stealing. So don't buy from them.
Fuck those people.
Exactly. All right.
All right, you guys ready for a cool down beer?
Cheers.